2 months ago, I received a pretty scary email in the middle of the night. I made a short video about it, and my reaction can pretty much be summed up here.
That sucks, dude.
Well, that issue has pretty much been resolved, at least to my knowledge, and so here's what happened, why I did what I did, and how it's going to affect me in the future. This wasn't the first time that I got in an email with the dreaded headline, Inquiry from Amazon Customer Brand Protection Team, but we'll get to that in a second. First, let's read the important parts of that email. The message from Amazon just says, you have received a message, and then there's an attached image that has the letter from this company. The letter gave me a very personal greeting, hello Amazon seller. Then it laid out which brand this was about, Casemate, and who to contact if I had any questions, a company called FBA. So from this so far, we can guess that Casemate outsources their brand protection to another company, this FBA company, to do their intellectual property management, which would make sense for them, at least on Amazon. It said Casemate requires that products sold under their Casemate name are genuine and sourced from legitimate channels. That makes sense. We reserve the right to seek confirmation that goods for sale in different retail channels meet these standards. Not always true because of Kurtzsang versus Wiley & Sons, which was a Supreme Court case which established the first sale doctrine, but we'll get to that later. We have been unable to confirm that the goods listed for sale by your company are genuine, etc. We ask that you provide us with the information to substantiate that your products meet these requirements. And then they say what they want me to actually send them to substantiate this. Identification of the source of your goods. Okay. Invoices supporting the quantity of inventory noted above, which is something that's pretty poorly worded and will work in our benefit, so we'll get to that in a second as well. And then company contact and business information, which also makes sense. They give contact information, which is also super important to you as an Amazon reseller. Contact us directly by replying to this message or by emailing their email. Definitely replying off Amazon is the way to go. Then they gave an ultimatum. Reply within 3 business days to prevent further escalation. And it's signed off by a brand enforcement manager at the end of it, which is nice because it's a little bit of a personal touch and a personal point of contact, which makes me think that it's a little bit less automated than if they just had signed FBA or something like that, because then there's at least a point of contact that I can reach out to. These Casemate phone cases are what this is in regards to. And to be completely honest, I probably should have heeded some of the warning signs that I had seen when I was sourcing these. Also kind of ironic that I got that email on the 20th and the next day I posted a video where I had bought most of these where I said this.
I'm not super stoked on these just because I can't sell them new. They're selling for 44. They have no like new. So if I sell them for 30, I should no problem get back about 25 bucks.
But we won't talk about that. Here's what I should have been aware of. It's not exactly the case now. When I first sourced all of these, there was only one person on the listing. And when I went into the Amazon listing, it showed just Casemate as the other seller. Now, it still showed that I was able to sell in any of the use conditions, like used like new, but since just Casemate was on the listing, I probably should have been aware that they don't want a lot of other people on the listings, and if I don't have good invoices, I might not be able to actually get on the listing legit. But honestly, that could have been alright. And even the used like new isn't that big of a deal because I've had many items like skull candies that I used to be able to sell used like new, and now I'm able to sell as new because I got ungated in them. But let's scan this with the Amazon seller app. Now that just says I can't sell this in new condition, whereas with the skull candy headphones and the other items that I've got ungated in, it didn't say you're restricted to sell it in new, it just says it requires approval to be able to sell it in new. I can't even apply for approval to be able to sell this one, so that's another red flag. But here's the interesting and kind of nice thing though. I didn't initially get smacked with an IP claim, it was just a brand inquiry. This is an IP claim email. In fact, it was a counterfeit claim email, and it kind of really pisses me off because I don't even think that the brand owner actually sent in that email, because the respond to email from the brand is apparently claims on Amazon at gmail.com. Why would it be at gmail.com if it was the IP owner of the item that I had listed? This is even more frustrating because it was listed as used like new. It definitely wasn't counterfeit, but they didn't even give me the opportunity to prove the authenticity of my item, because I could have sent them receipts showing that the item was legit, not necessarily getting ungated, but showing that it was not a counterfeit item. And on top of that, Amazon checked the item and sent it back to me because it wasn't counterfeit, but the claim is still on my account, which is really stupid. But luckily, that's not what this email is all about, and it is handled in a way that I think makes a lot more sense. And so let's get to my response and how I work through this. So there were actually 2 things that I had to respond to, because when you get an email like this, there's almost always a message on your Amazon Seller Central that you have to respond to as well. And I'm pretty sure you have to respond to that one within 24 hours to keep your account in pristine health. But I simply went into that one and in a professional way said, hey, FBA, check your email. I did that because by the looks of the letter, it looked like they were actually semi-reasonable. So I'd rather interact with them directly, and because they hadn't already put a claim on my account, Amazon isn't requesting any more information, and I don't want to give Amazon any more information than they're asking for, because they don't need to be privy to that. They're already privy to so much information in our lives. So I got onto my business email, which is just my business name at gmail.com, and reached out to them via that one rather than my personal email. And this is what I wrote back to them. Good morning. I'm responding to a request set by a brand enforcement manager. I'm a seller on Amazon who has listings for Casemate products. Maybe could have written that my company sells on Amazon rather than I am a seller on Amazon, because we are interacting business to business. But because they signed it off with the personal name of a brand enforcement manager, it's probably all right that I said I am, and at the end of my email, I made sure to sign off in a business professional way so that even if it wasn't I am doing all these things, it's on behalf of my company. I continued, none of my products are in the new condition. They are all used like new. I included this because I didn't know whether or not they simply flagged everybody who was selling on a listing or if they cared what condition people were selling in, because there is a difference between selling used and between selling new. And that brings me back to the point where when their letter stated, we reserve the right to seek confirmation for the goods for sale in different retail channels meet these standards, the Supreme Court actually ruled in a way that would kind of seem to say that that's not 100% true. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice, but the Supreme Court actually ruled that if you purchase something, the brand or original seller no longer has any legal ownership over that item. So you can sell it however you want to sell it. Here's where the problem lies though. Amazon, as a business, has its own rules. And even though I absolutely can resell all of these products completely legally, Amazon can determine whether or not I can sell them on their platform. Different platforms have different standards for what you're allowed to sell because they not only want to protect sellers, and that's debatable, but they also want to protect customers as well as brands who have their products listed on their site. That's why it would be a bad idea to simply ignore this, especially because they gave a 3-day ultimatum, so at least reach out to them within those 3 days to get the conversation started. Otherwise, they can just hit you with an IP claim, and based on my experience with the other IP claim, I would rather be a little bit overcautious on this and try to capitulate with the brands, because making sure that I continue having selling privileges is more important than whether or not I can sell these 15 items. Back to my email. In the email sent to me, there was a request for invoices supporting quantity of inventory noted above. However, there was no quantity noted. This is the other thing that I said I would get back to. Because this is a pretty poorly worded statement, could be interpreted, they should have given me a quantity of inventory, so there's no obligation for me to send them anything until they tell me what quantity they want, or quantity of inventory noted above could mean that they're asking me to say how much inventory I have and then to back that up with receipts or invoices. So I'd rather ask that question and have the dialogue about it because I don't want to give them more information than they need. It's just a brand enforcement team. And so because I'm asking that question, it also buys me a little bit more time because they're going to have to respond to that question before I send them any information, and they can determine whether or not I'm a legitimate seller. So either way, there's more time for this stuff to stay listed on Amazon in good standing because I'm interacting with the brand. Then of course you got to butter them up a little bit. I understand you take the protection of your member brand seriously, and I want to comply with what is required of my business. So please let me know what further you need from me, even as you now know that I have no listings as new. That was a nice typo, but it was important to remind them of that potentially new piece of information, that I'm listing my stuff as used rather than as new because they might have different policies for that. Then I reaffirm both my ability and my desire to comply with them by saying I can submit inventory verification, just let me know the quantity as stated in your email. But by that sentence, I also let them know that they can't get non-specific information out of me. Then I gave them my contact information and signed off using my formal business sign-off, which is Anthony Bodanza, member, and then my LLC name. Then, knowing that I had done all that I could do at that point, Amazon's message has been responded to, I responded to their email, I calmly and patiently waited for a response with no worries in the world. No, I didn't. I freaked out. And that's more just something that I have to work out amongst myself, not tying up like my worth or anything in my business. But it also didn't help that I thought they were taking forever to get back to me because I sent my email and waited like 5 or 6 days thinking I had forwarded my business email to my personal email. And then when I actually looked back at it like 5 days later, I realized they responded to me 1 day after I'd sent their email. They just asked what my Amazon store name was, so I gave them that. And then eventually they got back with me saying this. We assist Casemate to verify products on Amazon to ensure they are listed against the proper ASIN, genuine, and came from a legitimate source. Honestly, that sounds a little bit less stringent than Amazon's own policies, so I was still a little scared, but less so. They continue, we will need to verify that those Casemate items you have listed on Amazon are authentic with an invoice or receipt. If you could provide us with a receipt or invoice, we would be able to add you as a verified seller within our system. Those are some of an Amazon reseller's favorite words, or receipts, because obviously if you're reselling from these places, you probably don't have invoices to support your inventory, but you do have receipts. And since the brand was just asking for receipts, I was very happy to comply. That's why I'm grateful that I asked more questions, because I would have just assumed that they wanted invoices, but since I continued to ask questions and see exactly what they needed specifically, I was in a better position to know what they needed and know how I could fulfill those needs by sending in those receipts. A few days later, I messaged them back, because I'm terrible at getting back to people immediately, as some of you guys may know, and I attached these images of the receipts, products, and circled the SKUs so that they could match up the receipts with the specific items. I noticed they still didn't ask for a specific quantity, even though I asked for a specific quantity, so I just sent them a few because I felt like that would satisfy what they needed in their email, and then if they needed more, I can always potentially send them more. 2 days after I sent that, they responded, we will review your submission with Casemate and reach back out if we need anything further. Now that was May 5th, and as you can see, I have all of these here, and it's also almost a month and a half later, June 21st, as I'm filming this video. I don't even know if they necessarily added me as a verified seller. Let's talk some practical business and financial stuff so that you can understand my reasoning of why I still got these sent back to me, even though I could technically be a verified seller with them right now. First thing that I did after I sent that email was actually look at all of the listings that I had for Casement products. I think it was 4 or 5 of them. And I went into each of the SKUs to check to see how many had sold in the last 90 days, and I think that the grand total was just about 0. So that alone shows me that it's not a terribly profitable product for me. So when I noticed that, I immediately dropped all of my prices to like either a 30 to 50% profit margin so I could make a little bit of money back, but try to sell them as fast as I could. And then I decided that I would check on that pretty regularly. So another week went by and I still hadn't sold anything, so I decided to drop them just to cost, just get some money out of it. And I still waited and I still sold a grand total of 0 items. And so at this point, I didn't know whether I was a verified seller or not. Whether I am a verified seller or not, I still can't list them in new condition. And even when dropping the prices so much, they're not selling used like new. So I decided it's probably just best to not pay any more storage fees at Amazon and just get them sent back to me so I can try to sell them on eBay or maybe somewhere just in my local area. This was about a month ago and I'm finally receiving some of my last items. I actually don't think I've received all of them yet. But this was also way better because since I got them sent back to me, I can close those listings. So even if Casemate gets back to FBA and says, hey, we don't want him to be a verified seller or his company to be a verified seller, they can't put a claim on my account because I no longer have any listings with them. At least that's my knowledge of it. And so that just takes a whole measure of worry out of things. So as I'm getting them sent back to me, I'm getting all of them listed on eBay. And I'm probably going to end up losing money on almost all of them. The problem is I didn't save the tags, so I can't go and return them. But this just goes to show the importance of diversifying your income, not only between Amazon, different selling platforms, other businesses, or potentially a job, but also just between your inventory. And the good thing is, as these start to sell on eBay, I can actually be in a profitable position. So let's real quick go over the finances of what that might look like just for one of these items. I've actually already sold one on eBay. So we originally bought it for $10.64. Shipped it into Amazon was another 9 cents. I just did that because the dimensions on Amazon say it's 1/4 of a pound and my average shipping is like 36 cents per pound if I'm sending in a small box and a big box. Storage at Amazon was 2 cents for the 1 month that it was there. Getting it back to me was another 1/4. And then when it finally sold on eBay, my gross revenues were $15.64. But after I paid all my eBay fees, it was another $6.09. So you can see we're down $1.45 from where we originally started at $10.64. But that means that we still have $9.19 of that cash available to spend. So we only need to make a 16% return on investment, spending $9.19 in order to be profitable over that $10.64 number. So as all of those are listed on eBay, hopefully they'll sell, and pretty much no matter what price they sell at, I'll be able to eventually flip it back to be profitable. But I don't want to have to do that with a lot of items, so moving forward, there's going to be a little bit of changes to how I'm sourcing things that I've already kind of implemented, but we should talk about them. First is just going to be the obvious that if there's only one seller on an item, and especially if it's just the brand owner, be super careful in buying that item. Also making sure that if I'm restricted in new condition and trying to sell something in used like new, I'd be very careful about that as well. Basically just watch out for all the red flags that I talked about earlier. If it's something that you're questionable about, you take pictures of your receipts with all of the items and the tags from the places that you buy them from. It's just a good workflow that I'm actually going to start working into my own workflow more and more as I'm sending in shipments. And the only reason that I had pictures of this is because I was shooting videos. Otherwise, I would have felt even more stressed. So if you're in doubt, just take pictures. I know it seems a little tedious, and I even kind of don't want to do it for myself, but I know that it's the right thing to do, so I'm still going to do it. Anyway, speaking of sourcing, watch this video where you can just come along with me, a full-time reseller, to see what that actually looks like practically, including how much money I spend, why I make some of the buying decisions that I do, and then we'll go through all the totals of potential profit at the end of that video. Or you can watch this video, which shows how changing my eBay business model just a little bit has actually way increased my sales. And if both of those sound lame to you, that makes me a little sad, but you can watch this video, which YouTube thinks will be the best one for you on my channel.